Nancy Pfotenhauer, former advisor to John McCain's 2008 presidential campaign, and Penny Nance, CEO and president of Concerned Women for America. Thanks to all of you for being here.
Thank you.
And let's start with something Mike Huckabee of the Iowa caucuses last time around, something he said on Fox News.
I would probably say that Mitt Romney will end up winning it today. Now, I think, again, Ron Paul, because of his organization, could, and where it is really at a disadvantage. He doesn't have the devotion. If the weather is good, Mitt Romney is in better shape. If the weather is bad and it's real tough to get out, Ron Paul will win.
Now, he's talking about the Iowa caucuses. Almost no one thought Mitt Romney would win the Iowa caucuses until recently. Nance, let's start with you.
He's played the expectations game very well this time. Former Governor Romney learned last time around, and so he's played it right. At this point, if he comes in first, I think he gets a bounce. And of course, Iowa is famous for giving the bounce sometimes to the person who comes in second or third and adding some drama to it.
But Penny, do you think that Mitt Romney is going to win the Iowa?
You know, it's crazy to say this, but believe it or not, it's still too early to know.
Right.
You know, honestly, because we know that about 17% of Iowa caucus goers make up their mind that day, and another 10% during that week. So fully a third of people don't know right now how they're going to vote. And turnout is key in caucuses. It's not the polling, it's not the lip service. You've got to go out on a snowy night and stay strong.
Rich, you're uncharacteristically waiting your turn.
I know.
What has happened? You're not jumping in?
Well,
Disagree?
I could barely see you across the curvature of the
Did
earth.
we see you too far away?
It's the terror of small numbers. Less than 120,000 people came out to the Republican Iowa caucuses 4 years ago. So and we saw that in the Iowa straw poll, a very small difference of a handful of votes, and Ron Paul would have won that, not Michelle Bachmann. But I think either one of those two. The interesting player in this expectations game, I think, is Gingrich, who, 3 weeks ago was proudly proclaiming victory.
Right.
And then Thursday said, if he comes in fourth, that'll be fine.
But will it be fine?
No, because that means
Where does he have to place to keep going and matter in Iowa?
At least third, but because if he comes in fourth, it means he was beaten by either Santorum, Perry, or Bachmann, and I don't think he can sustain that.
Remember in 1980 that Ronald Reagan lost Iowa. It was actually George Bush who won Iowa, and then Reagan went on to win New Hampshire.
And Huckabee won.
John McCain came in fourth in Iowa.
And Huckabee won Iowa in 2008 and didn't go on to survive.
Yeah, Iowa doesn't pick the winner. What it does do is it does pick losers. It does winnow the.
But here's a question: if Ron Paul wins in Iowa, the media's not been taking him seriously as a potential nominee. Does the media need to then start taking him seriously, as much more seriously than the media has been?
You're in the media, yeah. I don't know the answer.
I would say as a spoiler. As a spoiler is really the position he's set up to be, and I think Republicans will be looking at themselves saying.
I think it's helpful to Romney, who I think will be the nominee. I'm not rooting for one or the other. I just think that's what will happen. And if it ends up being Ron Paul and Mitt Romney all the way down the line, that sharpens Romney's skills for the fall campaign. So I think that's kind of helpful in a weird sort of way.
And I think the people who are, what we're seeing with Paul is a very strong passion, anti-government passion. People who do not like the fact that government is intruding in their lives. And I think eventually, faced with Obama and a Republican nominee, any of these Republican nominees are going to put less government in their lives than Obama has. And so I think you will eventually see those people swing into line.
I agree.
But could that be into Ron Paul's line?
I don't think he makes it. I don't think he makes it through some of the bigger states. I just don't.
Why not?
I don't believe
because he's of the wing of the libertarian movement that thinks stop signs are a violation.
It's too easy to caricature.
And the concern is him running as a third-party candidate, really, I think. But I think it's very key at this point, though, for Republican contenders to embrace him and not to alienate his base, because they're going to need them later.
And where do you see the social conservatives going in Iowa? Before we move on to Mitt Romney, I just want to ask you, because there's a lot of talk that the social conservative vote will divide among so many different candidates.
I think it's been an issue. Again, I don't know how this is going to shake out, but I certainly will say that they're not going to go with Ron Paul. His choice, he's viewed more as a big government, socially liberal candidate. So they are drawn more towards, Rick Santorum, Michelle Bachmann, and even Newt Gingrich, despite his marital issues.
And that's strange to me because I think Newt Gingrich, while I think he's a man of bold ideas, he can be boldly wrong, and I think he's essentially a big government conservative. And even when he was likening or defending himself by referencing Jack Kemp in one of the debates, I'm like, I love Jack Kemp on tax policy. As soon as he got in as HUD secretary, he dramatically expanded HUD. So it's kind of a government's bad unless I'm in control.
How could be only one Iowa with 34% of the vote? So it doesn't take 34%. So 2/3 of Iowans 4 years ago wanted somebody else. Obama, by the way, only won with a little less than 38% of the vote. So 62% of Iowans didn't want Obama to be their nominee either. So these, again, it's the terror of small numbers. It's fun to talk about.
There's a new Boston Globe poll out that shows Mitt Romney with 39% support in New Hampshire. So right after Iowa comes New Hampshire, and Romney sort of staked his claim on that state. And the 39% has Romney, the next challenger, Newt Gingrich, at 17%. The reason this is meaningful beyond his huge lead is because there's been so much complaining that Romney can't break the mid-20s. He can't get support above 25%, and that means he's lukewarm. The support in the Republican Party for him just isn't there. Is this a meaningful breakthrough? Does any of you
I would say only in that. If he can't break 25% in New Hampshire, he is done. So, so it is helpful to him, but I don't think it says that.
If he does well in Iowa, I think he'll crack through 40, maybe 50 especially if Gingrich collapses. And that'll go to, I think that. And the other thing about polling in New Hampshire is that under New Hampshire rules, independents can walk in. They don't have to declare a party. They just have to take a ticket from one side or the other, and nobody ever knows how many independents are going to come out.
I've got to ask you about this, Rich, because it's Newt Gingrich quote of the week. He did not qualify for the Virginia ballot. Then he said he would run a write-in campaign, but you can't do that. And then his national campaign director said that this is just like Pearl Harbor, basically.
But it was worse because he said Newt and I both agree that it's just like Pearl Harbor.
Yeah,
Newt and I. This is classic Newt. I mean, I understand because I've worked for Newt and around him and against him for 30 years. What he was trying to say was that the American Navy came back from Pearl Harbor and ended up winning the naval war in the Pacific in relatively short order. That's what he was saying, but it's
a sense of grandiosity and
need you back, Rich. That's what I would say. Just one point on intensity. The intensity here, everybody is obsessed with, does Romney engender strong feelings in support of? The intensity here is going to come in the general election against Obama. Incumbents are not beaten by challengers. They defeat themselves. And we're really waiting. That's why I think Obama's really running against the economy. And we a Republican nominee who doesn't screw up.
So you need this primary to end quickly and get a nominee, you think is the trick?
Oh, yeah, weeks ago.
All right.
I would agree with that. I think Romney's much better since they got worried about Gingrich and they began to engage. I don't think that's right. I think it's like being a boxer. It's like being a boxer. You have to have a sparring partner. You got to feel the punch in the jaw to know what it's going to
Irish woman, I agree with you.
Thanks to all of you. I think there'll be a lot of boxing ahead. Thanks to all of you for being here.